Jim Everett here.
Okay, guys, about to start.
Good.
Saints fans and Who-Dats from all over the world. It's time for the Bayou Blitz, y'all. With your hosts, Bob Rose, and special guests, Jim Everett and QuinnEarly. But check it out. It's going to be not a trick nor a treat when the Saints take down the Rams in the Bayou on Sunday. So stay tuned and listen up what Bob, Kyle, Jim, and Quinn say, because it's gonna be it's gonna be a trick or treat finazza for the Big Easy. Hey guys, how y'all doing?
I'm speechless at your intro.
Oh, that was an intro? Oh, I'm sorry. I got kind of possessed there. Oh, man. How you doing, Bob?
I am very good. I'm very good. And happy Halloween. Happy early Halloween to all our listeners, Saints fans, NFL fans, and fans of the Bayou Blitz. We thank you for having us into your homes and over your airwaves on a special spooky Tuesday night.
Oh, my goodness. I need a drink.
Don't we all?
Oh, man. Well, I'm sorry, Bob. Go ahead on, man.
No, man, that's all right. That's all right. We're all thrown off a little bit. That's why they call October 30th Devil's Night, because that's when all the major tricks are being played.
Oh.
But we certainly hope our New Orleans Saints aren't going to be tricked on Sunday. But we have your Halloween Avengers, your New Orleans Saints Avengers, joining you tonight. Not only myself, Bob Rose, but I am joined by my partner in crime, Mr. Kyle Mosley, and I do believe that we have former Saints and Rams great Jim Everett already on the line with us. How are you tonight, Jim?
Hey, Bob. I'm just ready to put my hand in the basket for that trick or treat introduction. I'm telling you, that's incredible. But I have a feeling come this Sunday, I think there's going to be a lot of tricks, and we're all in for a treat. That's for sure.
Definitely. Well, hey, Jim, this is Kyle. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, Kyle, I'm doing great. Good to be with you guys.
Good to have you.
And you couldn't have said it any better. That the NFL and certainly fans of both the Los Angeles Rams and the New Orleans Saints are in for a big treat. This is going to be, and I've been promoting it all week, a titanic clash between two of the NFL's top teams. And I mean, I don't know where to start as far as breaking the game down, because both teams are at the top of the league rankings in just about every conceivable ranking. Not too many chinks in the armor of either team. And Jim, I know you're right in the middle of it out there in Los Angeles, the return of football to the Los Angeles area in year number 3, and excitement has to be really high out there.
Oh, Kyle, it's off the charts. I mean, when the Rams first came here, I think everyone was just happy to have football back in L.A. But now they're, thinking championship in L.A. and the city of champions, and people like a winner out here. I mean, they like a winner everywhere. Trust me. Buffalo would love to have a winner right now, but they don't have it. But Cleveland don't even know they know how to have one. But they love it out here. It's contagious. It's going well. Even the Chargers playing some good football. But the fact that the New Orleans Saints are playing extremely well, it's fun to watch. And you're right. It's the Clash of the Titans. I think this is, and I'm not out on a limb here, I think it's a preview of what the NFC Championship could look like. The fact that they're playing in a dome, and I know I played there on both sides of the ball. Mm-hmm. It's an impact. It's an impact, and I think it's going to be helpful for the Saints. And I mean, each team's going to need their breaks to make things happen. But gosh, I think one of the Achilles' heels on some of the Rams stuff has been runners that can do good things. And the Saints have two good ones, and I think that, if they utilize those with, Drew taking care of the ball and that, I think it's gonna offer a lot of problems for that Rams defense.
No doubt. And you mentioned that you've been in that Superdome environment on both sides of the football. Tell us what it was like a little bit to come in when you were with the Los Angeles Rams. Of course, you guys were in the same division, the NFC West, with the New Orleans Saints. So you not only had to face them twice a year and come into the Dome once a year, but you guys were one of the top NFC powers. The Saints, of course, had that great Dome Patrol defense and really tough, hard-nosed football. Tell us what it was like to come into the Dome and play the New Orleans Saints back in those days.
Well, I think you got it right. With the current day viewers nowadays, they're like, Saints, Rams, what's that all about? But back in the day, we were division rivals, and with the 49ers, and so, yeah, it was going there, and they came here. They traveled well. The New Orleans folks loved coming out to Los Angeles and represented well. Going in the Dome was always, a nail biter. You knew they were going to pound you. You knew you were going against one of the toughest defenses in the NFL. Ricky Jackson, Sam Mills. They just always had good pass rushers. They had good interior linemen. They had good linebackers. They had good secondary. I mean, it was just like, you better be bringing your A game, and that's similar to what's happening right this weekend. They have all facets of the game. There's no real weakness that you're going to say, okay, we're going to single this out and just going to make a living on doing this, because there's not one. And that's why they have such a good record, even on their offensive side when you look at it. And that's the difference from the time we were playing. Their offense now is one of the league's best. And that was not the case back in the day. They always had a great running game, but it was kind of singled out. Maybe they would do some stuff on play action and get with one of their tight ends, but some down the field threat, but not like they have now with Thomas on the outside and the whole thing. They're just dynamic in all facets, and they're making it work.
Now the Rams and the Saints both, for that matter. I mean, and we talked about this when you were on the show over the summer. Saints, Rams, Vikings, Eagles, and even throw the Falcons and the Carolina Panthers into the mix, and now it looks like the Green Bay Packers. The NFC looks like a gauntlet. But it looks also like, when you take a look at the league schedule, that all these top teams are going to play each other. The Saints, of course, are coming off of a big road victory against the Minnesota Vikings. The Rams handled the Vikings, and I believe the Eagles earlier in the year. So this is not only an important game just from a fan's point of view for entertainment factor, but it's a huge game as far as playoff seeding, isn't it?
It is. I mean, every game is. I mean, and that's the part of the NFL that's so exciting, is the dynamics can change. It can be, one ahead, two behind, still make a comeback. And that's 16 games is a long season to play. And basically they break it down in 4 quarters, first 4 games, next 4, next 4, and anything can happen. And you're trying to go 4-0 in each one of those quarters, but that doesn't always happen, and you're playing on the road. You've got guys hurt. I know Sleeve is hurt for the Rams. That's made the cornerback position a little bit more suspect. When they were talking about the Rams having 2 shutdown corners, and now, they have Peters and there've been questions about his play and the whole deal. And, he's been playing injured as well. So, there's you go through a 16-game season, and that's why I get into this. You play with mix. I remember last year when the New Orleans Saints came out to the Coliseum, Drew Brees had a bad ankle, couldn't move, and that really hurt their game. But look at how they've changed, where they go up to Minnesota and he didn't throw over 150 yards and still win the game by 10. So their team is more than just Drew. I mean, he's a big part of it. Don't get me wrong, and he's one of the best to ever play the position. But they've got guys around them that are ballers.
Have you managed to build up any kind of relationship with Coach McVay or Jared Goff out there? And if so, what kind of ways are they picking your brain?
Well, we've had a chance to talk, some football, some not, some casual, some social. I guess I could probably break this thing down with McVay. He's always interviewing. He's young 30-year-old coach. he knows so much, but he wants to take in so much more. So he's nonstop talking football. I thought Peyton Manning was a football head. I mean, McVay makes Peyton Manning look like a child. I swear. He lives it, breathes it. I don't even know how he has time for such a pretty girlfriend he got, but anyways, he does. But and then Jared Goff he's such a cool cat. I mean, he's so stoic, but he's got such a dry sense of humor. He's right in there. He's focused, but he doesn't want to let you know that he's already, you think in algebra, and he's already on calculus 3. I mean, he's that type of guy. But he doesn't want you to know that. So he just plays it coy. And so his personality and McVay's together is a match made in heaven. It really is. I mean, it's been fun to watch and see grow anymore. But that's been the key thing with Goff is his command of this offense. Somewhat similar to what Drew has done with all the things that they're doing in New Orleans. Is he continues. I mean, he's a master at it, and I think that's at the quarterback position. You need to have it. You looked up in Chicago. Is Nagler going to do that with Trubinsky? Is he going to be able to be a master? He's not yet. But if he gets to that plane, then all of a sudden you get a whole new level, and that's where Aaron Rodgers is at, and those guys.
Mm-hmm. Jim, and as you know, because we talked a little bit yesterday, we're joined by one of your favorite receivers, and you've been fortunate to play with a handful of them, very good ones throughout your career. But I do believe Mr. QuinnEarly is joining us on the line as well. Are you there, Quinn?
I am here, and first off, let me just say that the Iowa Hawkeyes play the Purdue Boilermakers this weekend. And me and Jim already have a bet. And all I have to say is go Hawks.
I would expect you to say no else says that. But I think it'll be a good matchup.
Yeah, it'll be a good game for sure. How you guys doing?
Good. How you doing?
Doing well.
Hey, Bob, I need to tell you, Quinn was a hell of a receiver. He's a better human being. I'll let you know there's not too many people that I'd name my son after. All right?
Oh, wow.
That's how I feel about QuinnEarly.
Oh,
exactly.
awesome.
And listen, and since we're all like hugging each other and stuff, I got to tell you that, man, Jim made it happen for me. I'll tell you, when he first arrived in New Orleans and they had signed Michael Haynes from the Atlanta Falcons,
mm-hmm.
They had pretty much, in setting up the offense and setting up the games, they had set up everything so that Michael would be the primary receiver. And he was, and well-deserved, he's a great receiver. But I remember being upset about it and looking at the scheme and going, man, they don't even have me. They really don't even have one primary route for me. And I remember Jim just coming to me and just kind of leaning in and going, hey, man, don't worry about it. I got you. And he really, helped that to happen for me. And we just had a great rapport. We worked really well together. And those are some good years. Not enough of them, but they were great years when we were together.
Awesome.
Well, that's what happens when you get free agency and you get money and go to Buffalo and then you freeze it. Okay, Quinn? I know how that works. Freeze for the money, man. Freeze for the money. I told you to stay.
Yeah, that was definitely a give and take right there. That's for sure.
Quinn, Jim's got a great point. I mean, he was smart enough to go to L.A., from L.A. to New Orleans and then back out to San Diego, so he stayed warm. What happened with that Buffalo, and then you went from Buffalo to the New York Jets?
I'll tell you. So a real quick story. So I grew up in New York, and I went to Iowa, so two cold places. Then I had an opportunity to play first in San Diego and then New Orleans, and I had vowed never, ever to shovel snow again as long as I lived. So I signed with the Bills, and it's it's nice there. It's autumn, and the leaves are changing, and I wake up one morning, and I open the garage, and there's about 10 inches of snow. And we hadn't hired any kind of snow service, so there I am shoveling snow. And I can tell you, man, every curse word in the book came out of my mouth. And man, it was something. But yeah, no, it was just one of those things, business, and it was towards the end of my career, and they were the ones that wanted me to come and play and pay me money, so I went there. I'll tell you, I would love to stay in New Orleans, though, because that was, to this day, that's who I root for, and that's my home.
Wow, and I hope all you young football players listening, high school and youth football players listening right now, I hope you're taking this to advice. Always listen to your quarterback.
You got that snow shovel in your hand, you're thinking, this ain't the Big Easy.
I did actually want to get both of your thoughts on something now. One of the Rams' key offensive pieces, and he was one of their big name free agent or big name acquisitions in the offseason, wide receiver Brandon Cooks. And of course, Cooks played for a few years in New Orleans as a key piece of their offense. Cooks didn't leave on great terms. I mean, he was traded to New England before he was traded to the Rams. But you were both in that kind of situation. Jim, you got traded from a divisional rival, no less, going from Los Angeles to New Orleans. Quinn, you and I had spoke before about, you weren't real happy with your role in San Diego before you joined New Orleans. When you both played your former teams, how did you feel going in? I mean, was there extra motivation?
Well, I know for me, the situations were different. So, for example, when I left San Diego, I didn't really leave on too good of terms. I was drafted pretty high there. There was a lot of volatility as far as the changing of coaches, general managers, things like that. And when Bobby Beathard came into San Diego, he, for whatever reason, just did not like me. And I was on the top of his get rid of list. And once I left the team, I had an opportunity to play for the Saints, to sign with the Saints. And so I had a chip on my shoulder. And I was a young player. I was 24 years old. And anytime we played the Chargers, I did my best to show them that they made a mistake. So that was really a chip on the shoulder type situation. So, but when I left from New Orleans to Buffalo, it was a little bit different of a scenario. That was just a scenario where, I clearly had the best stats on the team. I had proven myself as a receiver, and, the front office at the Saints at the time didn't really want to, and I wasn't being greedy. I was just like, I just want what the other guy is getting, the other starter. And they didn't want to give me that. And somebody else was going to give me above and beyond that. So unfortunately, it's a business sometimes, and you have to make business decisions. But that was a different scenario. I still had, to this day, I really don't care for the Chargers that much because of, just how they handled things and how they treated me when I was there. But the Saints were nothing but class. I love that organization. When people ask me if you have to root for an NFL team, who do you root for? Saints. I don't even hesitate. I loved my teammates. I loved the city. I loved the fans. So there was no real animosity with that situation for me.
Yeah, Jim, what about you? Yours was a little bit more.
Yeah, mine was a situation where I was begging to leave LA. They brought in Chuck Knox, a whole different philosophy, and you realize when new GMs come in, and this is the thing that maybe the fans need to know, that they have their guys that they are looking for. Well, like, for example, Bobby Beathard may be looking for a different type guy than QuinnEarly or whatever it might be, and they want to bring in their own guys because they feel loyalty and all. It's really really a strange biz when it comes to that. But even coaches, when they take over a job, they want to fire everybody and bring in their own guys. I mean, that's what they do at IBM and all these other companies. And my situation was I wanted to leave the Rams. Number one, I saw the talent they were bringing in, which obviously wasn't good. The talent department was horrible. I think they had the worst record in the 1990s. And I was like, I kept being surrounded with. Put it this way: when I went to New Orleans, I had a ton more talent. Guys like QuinnEarly and Jim Dombrowski and all. I'm like, wow, these are real NFL players again. This is like the life. I'm tired of playing football, being the underdog every darn week, and not having a chance to even get a W, because you do play to get W's. And so with me, it was like, oh heck yeah, get me out of here. Let's go. I was happy to go, but when we came back, because coaches, head coaches, and quarterbacks take a lot of the credit for the wins and blame for the losses. Everyone wanted to blame me for this and that. I'm like, okay, great, blame me. I beat your butt. And that was. I had a chip on my shoulder talking about that, Quinn. Holy cow! And that went pretty good for most of the years. It was kind of neat because I knew the talent on the other side. of the ball, I knew who to go out. I mean, in scouting, I knew exactly where I was going.
Quinn, what did your quarterback tell you guys as you were getting ready to play the Rams, especially those first couple of times that you played them? Because like he just said, he was itching to get out of town, be surrounded by talent again. He stepped into you guys, all that, to Helen on both sides of the ball, and Jim, you always took complete command of whatever offense you were in charge of. So, Quinn, I'm interested to hear what your quarterback would talk to you guys about in that week leading up.
Well, first of all, I'll tell you, playing with a quality quarterback, everyone in that huddle knows this is the general of our team. This is the guy that we can play with and we can win with. And everybody on that team absolutely knew that was the case with Jim. I've been in the huddle with quarterbacks, and you could see fear in their eyes, and they weren't sure. And that makes the other 10 guys in the huddle unsure. So with Jim, we knew we had a chance. We knew that we could win these games, and we can go out and we can pretty much play and beat anybody. And, I don't think, he probably felt inside that playing the Rams, he wanted to get some things done. But we as a team approached that game like we did every other game. Like, we're going to go out here and we're going to kick these guys' butt. It didn't matter who we were playing. So as professionals, that's how we went about it. But I knew that I wanted to make more plays and make those plays for Jim, because I knew what it meant to play against your former team, because that's how I felt when we would play against the Chargers. So it was kind of something unsaid, but I think we knew that as an offense, we got to win this with Jim.
I think that's true, Quinn. You hit a good point. I know when I played with other teammates who had come from other squads, and then we go play their squad, you wanted to represent for them. You wanted to see them after the game with the victory, and we're going to call it revenge factor. And maybe some of the players, maybe I never said as much for the Rams, but I knew for a fact each game, for example, I'll name up the player, I knew I was going right at Robert Bailey. I knew the game plan, I knew this, I'm taking him, I'm going to take him out. I know that's what I'm going to do. But I wouldn't tell my team that. But it was funny. I was having a discussion the other night with Jackie Slater, and he was on sack, and he goes, You just come up the line and just look at Robert, didn't you? We saw you just look at him, stare him down. He goes, yeah. He goes, you killed him.
Yep. That's the advantage. Again, that's the advantage about playing against your former teammate. You know where you can hurt somebody. Okay, I know I can do this against that guy. It's going to kill him. That's good.
I think all the teammates, but if you're going against some teammate of yours played for whoever, you're going to go to them for the intel. I mean, at least I did. Say, hey, what'd they do? Who'd you like? Who are you impressed with? Who's got this? Who's got that? And I'm sure coaches do the same thing when they bring guys in. I don't know how much intel Amari Cooper's bringing about the Raiders to Dallas, but anyways, you would see if for a guy like Cooper in Dallas, now they would want to rally and beat the Raiders. I mean, that's what they do. That's what you want to do. That's part of life.
Absolutely.
Now, we talked about Brandon Cooks, and he is having a good season for L.A. Hell, there's not too many people on that team that aren't having a good season for the Rams. And, obviously Brandon is new to the Rams scheme and, with a new quarterback. Now, on the flip side, the same rookie wideout Traquan Smith is off to a bit of a slow start, although he's been coming around. And their own free agent wideout acquisition, Cameron Meredith, has been really inconsistent. Jim and Quinn, too, after that, I'd love to hear how important the wide receiver quarterback rapport and relationship truly is, or is it a little bit overhyped in the media?
I think there's something special there, and you usually can see it if you have kind of a little bit of a trained eye. But I can tell you, I had a special relationship with QuinnEarly. There's no doubt about that, and I'm not just saying I would say that. I'd say Wesley Wall is another one that it was just obvious that you knew where he was going before he went where he was going. And so when you have that type of that type of timing, trust, all that faith, you're going to turn around, the ball's going to be there, you got it, boom. And one of the things I'll say since Quinn's on the phone, Quinn had some of the strongest hands I've ever seen. So I could put balls high and away. I could put balls right on. I know 50 balls. I know it's his ball. It's just that type of trust. And when you have that, I see that happening with Jared Goff with Cooper Kupp. I see it happen. I see it developing with Brandon Cooks. And how it amazes me, and since you're on the Cooks thing, and I'll ask a question myself, how this young man could be playing for his third team, he's 25 years old or whatever. The kid is good. I don't understand how all these coaches let his ass go, because he is good.
Yeah, that is a mystery. It has to be something else. I don't know if it's personality, if it's his rapport with other teammates in the locker room. I don't know, but yeah, that is kind of a mystery to me. I do want to say that I listened to Chris Carter, an interview that he did, and he talked about playing the wide receiver position and being in a scheme. So what I mean is, everybody who's in that league is talented, right? They were the best player to ever come out of where they came from. They're fast. They can run. They can jump. And, sometimes, it depends on the scheme that you're in. And also, there's really only one football. Fortunately for me, Jim liked what I had to offer. We had a great rapport. We worked great together in both practice and in the games. And then, like Jim mentioned, same thing between him and Wesley Walls. And then there are other people on the team, so it's hard to get the football to everyone. So I think with Roquan Smith, he's a rookie. He's just coming in. He's learning how to be a professional. I think that in the right situation, he has the talent. He could be a great receiver. I think that he can do really well in this league. But, you have to start somewhere. And I think, nowadays we're such a society of we want things to happen right now. But I think that, sometimes you have to have patience. I think you have to have patience with, your new quarterback that you just drafted. I think you have to have patience with, some skill positions like receiver. And I think he's going to be a good player for sure.
Doubt. And Jim, to your question, I have no idea what's going on with Brandon Cooks. I mean, a lot of us don't. A couple years ago, as Cooks was playing through his what turned out to be his last season in New Orleans, I mean, statistically, he was off the charts. Him and Michael Thomas, coupled with Willie Snead, I mean, they look like three young guns that were going to take the league by storm. I personally miss Brandon in the New Orleans offense, but I agree with you. I think he's a great player. I think he's a great fit with Goff in that offense. I'm hoping he takes the day off on Sunday personally, but I like Brandon Cooks as a player myself.
I think he's playing. I think he's punching his card in. I'm sure he's going to be there.
Yeah. I mean, no doubt, as anybody can attest to in New Orleans, Brandon is also an ultimate competitor. And that may be what might have worn out his welcome, is because, like any receiver, and Quinn can attest to this too, like not only any receiver, but any competitor, you want the ball in your hands, because that's one of the ways that you make plays. Maybe it's the way he went about it. I don't think any one of us sitting on this panel are completely qualified to say that in the case of Brandon specifically. But I mean, only time will tell. Playoffs, obviously.
Well, hey, let me go back to Cooks. Let me tell you about his. Let me tell you a little bit about Cooks in LA. He has been a ultimate professional. He has come in and has more yards catching than Sammy Watkins had all last year in 8 games. He is a technician off of going to work, doing his stuff, being responsible, leading the receivers. I mean, there's some maturity that happens. That's what Quinn talks about, talking about these young receivers. There's a little difference when you got 4 years under your belt and how you come in and say, I know the profession, I got this. He works hard. That was one of the things I saw with QuinnEarly, is you see receivers that work hard. You see other receivers who just have natural talent and just go out there and run. Michael Haynes was one of those guys. But when it came to off season, it came to work hard, all these other things, Michael would say, let's just, take a break. Well, Quinn would say, let's do 2 more. So there's guys like that. Jerry Rice was like that. Brandon Cooks is like that. I see him out there all the time. I mean, he's wanting more. And Goff, you're just seeing it develop. And so that's the part, when guys like that, maybe he was younger, maybe there's some other things that happened. I don't know, but it's working for him here.
Is Cooper Kupp going to play this week? Has anybody heard? I mean, Jim, you're closer to them than anybody, but I'm hearing like back and forth whether Kupp is going to be in uniform on Sunday.
I think they're projecting him too, so I still think that there's still some question mark on game day, but I think they're projecting him to start this week.
Guys, I'd like to get all of your thoughts on this one on both sides of the ball. But first, I'd love to hear how you'd attack this New Orleans Saints defense first. Of course, they brought in the new cornerback who was in the not only in uniform, but starting the game, Eli Apple, after 4 days as a Saint. And he had a little bit of an up-and-down performance, but pretty solid. Having said that, we already know what the pass rush is up front and what Marshawn Lattimore can give. How would each of you attack this New Orleans Saints defense if you had the weapons that the Rams do?
Jim, you want to go?
Oh, yeah. Number one, it's not going to be a steady dose of one thing, that's for sure. They've got a solid secondary. You got pass rush. You don't want Goff getting killed, sitting back there all the time. So I think you see them trying to do the things that the Rams do. They're going to be doing jet sweeps. They're going to try to make sure that they get the width, and they're going to hand the ball to Gurley. I mean, that's some of the things that you watch with the Kansas City offense, the Rams offense. You're seeing what they're trying to do is create quick width, bubble screens, some screens like that. If the rush gets too bad, I would have to see screens coming up. But you want to get width so that the rushers have to maintain their width. So then you can pound it up the middle with Gurley, and that's what they're going to do. And then when they get enough of that, then they fake it to Todd, which everyone has to respect, and they throw right behind the linebackers. I mean, that's the game. That's what they do. I don't think that's going to change. It makes the corners, especially with all the crossing routes that the Rams run, is the corners have to run their ass off during the game. They're not just covering one sideline. They're covering the whole field, and that's what McVay does. He makes sure by the fourth quarter that the whole secondary is tired too. And it's interesting to watch his whole philosophy.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jim. I think that the Rams are so good that they're just going to do what they do. Now, when you prepare for a game during the course of the week, you're going to look at what the previous team and the previous two teams and the previous three teams did successfully against that defense. So I think they'll incorporate some of that, but I think that the Rams are so good across the board. They have the receivers, they have the running game. Like Jim said, they run those bubble screens, they run those jet sweeps. They're so balanced that I think that they're going to do what they do and expect to be successful against the Saints defense.
Yeah, one of the things is you watched the Green Bay Ram game last week, and I know you're probably watching the Saints, but what Green Bay did is came out and nickel and dime people. And what I mean that for the viewers is when I say nickel, that's 5 defensive backs. When I say dime, that's 6 defensive backs. And they played, it's kind of a third down defense, and they played that the entire game. And that was their counter. And it actually worked the first half until they ended up neutralizing it. But they're trying to get 7 in the box. They didn't want 7 big bodies in the box. They just wanted 7 bodies in the box. And then they would fly out on coverage. And that's what they try to do. I would imagine New Orleans is going to look at that and say, you know what? I think the Rams have some troubles with, this type or that type or little bodies or whatever it might be. Because when you go big against the Rams, then all of a sudden you see the bubble screens and everything wide, and then they try to outflank you. So, I mean, it's a constant chess match. And here's a guy like McVay, who's 30-some years old. Quinn, here, this is one example, and I'll be specific. Remember back when we would play, we would run a reverse.
Right.
I'd fake the running back, you'd come around, and I would hand the ball behind us on a reverse, and then you would go out the other side. Nowadays, they do this thing, and they flip the ball forward, kind of toss it up, so it's actually a pass, but the reverse goes around the other way. Well, how ingenious this is, because if back in our day, if you and I would have mishandled the ball, it would have been a fumble.
Right.
Nowadays, since it's a pass, if it happens to be mishandled, it's incomplete. Stuff like that, those small details that, why weren't we doing that?
Right.
I look at today and just amazed.
Yeah.
Well, we'll blame your coaches, because you guys had the talent. We'll blame your coaches.
We'll blame Carl Smith.
Those are the small things that McVay looks at, and those details going, hey, why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we doing that? You see Kansas City run these shovel passes. They act like they're running option left, and they shovel back right. Stuff like that. You're going to see all the teams doing this. I mean, it's exciting offensive stuff. The teams that aren't going to do it aren't going to be making playoffs, because dynamic offenses are going to dictate the pace of the games.
Now, how about on the flip side? And I mean, you both made great points, and I would expect you would say the same thing about Sean Payton and Drew Brees. But given what the Rams have defensively, and of course, we all know what the Saints have offensively with Brees and their own balanced attack, is there a specific way you would attack this Rams defense?
Quinn, you want us first?
Well, I think that, it's the same kind of thing. I think that Drew is such a smart quarterback, and I think that they prepare so well that I think that they're going to just do what they do. I do believe that they need to get more of the running game going. Get Kamara, and especially Ingram. He's been a little slow, to get started this year. But I think that they really need to get that running game going a little bit more. And I think that the Rams are going to try to take the passing game away first. And I think that's what everybody tries to do. So I think if they can be more balanced, I think that they'll be successful against the Rams.
I would agree with that too. There are two key things I think that I would do. Number one is, I would run the ball right at Aaron Donald. He has a habit sometimes to pass rush every down, and when he does, his first move is usually a jump, and that's when you can, as offensive guard, you're gonna blow somebody up. That's when you do. So when he jumps, you want to blow him out of the hole and then run right at him. We used to do that to Reggie White, and that was kind of successful. Not all the time, but that's one way. Attack the best player, because he can't be a flow player at that point. The second part is, once you establish that, is I think that once you got and looking for that run that's coming right at him, then that's when you do your play action fake. Get to play with the linebackers, do that. I think the inexperience of linebacker core, you could be taken advantage of by Drew. And then double moves on the outside, because I think Marcus Peters likes to guess, and Troy Hill will jump things too. So that combination of, hey, let's take their pass rush out. I don't think you're going to start the game by doing drop back, because Drew's just going to get his head handed in a platter to him, because those guys are too dang good. You got to get them on their heels, and then you got to play fake, and then run some sort of double moves on the guys that like to jump and take chances, and I think you can get some deep balls.
Jim, going down the stretch with both New Orleans and Los Angeles. Injuries aside, of course, because we all know that's the great equalizer. But going down the stretch, do you see any glaring weaknesses for either Los Angeles or New Orleans that could possibly not derail a playoff run, but be a potential trouble spot going down the road?
I would say this. I think the Rams addressed some of their weakness today in a trade with Fowler. So, I mean, that was with Dante Fowler, who I look at, he's more of an outside linebacker that in Jacksonville they wanted to play defensive end. And so he now gets to be a stand-up linebacker, which I think he's more natural at, similar to what Kevin Green was like, rather than having to be, playing in Jeff Fisher's type defense. So I think it's a great pickup, and I think that was a weakness. That was a pass rush on the outside pressure that I would have said exactly that, but it was addressed today. Something smartly addressed. Again, I think now the Rams have 7 number 1 draft picks. It might be from other teams, but they got some potential. But, as far as on New Orleans side, I think, the things that I worry about, and I know the quarterbacks are playing at a older age these days, but I worry about Drew's health at some point and how he can hold up and take some of the game, especially when he plays a team like the Rams, who are going to rough him up. That's what they do. He's not a 25-year-old guy who just bounce up. And you and I both know, we turned our ankle, great, okay, we're good in 2 hours, or we're good in 15 minutes, we're good. But when you get older, it's like, damn, that thing lingers. That would be the thing.
You never seen it the whole season. I know I did when that.
once we get to playoff time, I would want to see, hopefully Drew's in good health. And this, I know when he came out here again, like I said last time, when he came out to Los Angeles last year, he had a bad wheel, and it really affected their game, and they weren't as effective. I'd hate to see that because they've got so much young talent out, but they got that young backup Hill quarterback. Maybe he's a dynamo waiting to happen. I mean, he's done some great things.
Mm-hmm. Quinn, what about you? What stands out? I know you've watched New Orleans and followed New Orleans a lot. I don't know how much you follow the Rams, but based off of what you've seen, what could be a potential hiccup for either team down the road?
Well, actually, since I live out here in California, I actually watch the Rams probably just as much as I watch the Saints play, because they're a fun team to watch. But I think that, again, for New Orleans, I think what's going to hurt them is if they can't, be a balanced team against the Rams. If they can be successful running the ball, I think it would be hard to stop them. I think they can put a lot of points up. As far as the Rams go, them getting Cooper Kupp back will be a potential problem for the Saints. But if the Saints can stop Gurley, and if they can stop some of those things that they do in the short passing game, I think that will, hinder the Rams, and they won't be able to, do all of the things that they enjoy. That's going to be a hard task for the Saints because they're, like I had mentioned earlier, they're so good across the board. They have so many good players. So if the Saints can stop some of that, then I think that they're in a good spot, and I think they can win the game. I'll be at the game, by the way, this week, so looking forward to it.
Yeah, and speaking of that, I know you have a big event coming up. Tell us a little bit about that, and also tell our fans again how they can get your book.
Okay, well, as the fans know, I've been raising money for Alzheimer's research. My mom wrote this amazing book called Bryant Acres, and she unfortunately was diagnosed with Alzheimer's in 2008 before she had a chance to publish the book. And before she passed away, she asked me to publish the book for her, so I did. And it's been doing really well, and all of the proceeds from the book is going to Alzheimer's research, like I said. And you can order the book at BryantAcres.com. And it's just a great cause. And I'll be in New Orleans this weekend, or this upcoming weekend. And on Saturday, I'll be doing an Alzheimer's walk with the association it's the Northridge Walk in Mandeville. So anybody who wants to come on down, join the team. Let's shake some hands. Let's talk about some stuff, talk about the Saints. And then that afternoon, about 5 p.m., we'll have a meet and greet at Empastada's in Metairie. And fans can come down. We'll sign some autographs. It'll be myself, Torrance Small, Tyrone Hughes, trying to get Ricky Jackson down there, and maybe a couple of other Saints that are local, and just do a little meet and greet. And it should be a fun time. And then Sunday, just enjoy the game.
Hey, I got one question. What color sweats is Ty Hughes going to be wearing that night?
It's hard to say. He tended to have 2 or 3 costume changes during any period of time, So
I love that dude, Ty Hughes, man. Remember he set that record, that all-purpose yard record, run 2 touchdowns back against the Rams. I love that dude.
Dude, he's so awesome. He'd come with those different hairdos and everything. It was awesome.
It's trick-or-treat daily.
Yeah. But it should be a good time, man. We'll do some I was talking to Torrance Small, and Jim, you remember how much fun we used to have and how much we used to laugh. And every time I get on the phone with that guy, man, we spend the whole time laughing. It was like a bunch of schoolgirls getting together and just laughing it up. So it should be a good time. So I invite all the fans to come down and come hang with us.
We definitely got to get all of us together. I've been wanting to meet both of you guys for quite some time. Let me ask you this each, though.
Hey, Bob, I've been wanting to meet Pete Rose's brother. So I mean, I know you're relative. So
there's some connection there somewhere.
Bob, can you slide? Can you slide, Bob?
I can actually. I can, and I always did the head first slide.
All right.
My dad always used to tell people Pete Rose, yeah, he's the black sheep of the family, and that was that was when I was growing up. That was well before all the Pete Rose gambling things hit. So he always used to tell people, yeah, he's the family member we don't talk about.
Hey, all we know now with all the legalized gambling, he was way ahead of his time.
Yeah, no kidding. Hey, listen, both of these teams are pretty young. Obviously, Breeze is up there, but outside of that, the Saints have one of the younger rosters in the NFL. And even with all the veteran additions this offseason, the Rams are still an extremely young team. Both teams went to the playoffs last year, as everybody knows. The Saints won one game, and then they went out against Minnesota, and the Rams were one and done. Each of you guys, Jim, I think you started a playoff game your rookie year. Quinn, you were it was your first year in New Orleans when you guys went to the playoffs. But tell us a little bit about how much the intensity ratchets up from regular season to playoffs, and then once you've been through that, how you know to approach it from there on forward.
Well, I think that everybody realizes that as you get into the playoffs, you're one step closer to everyone's dream since you were a little kid, and that's to play in and win a Super Bowl. And once you can achieve that, you're kind of immortalized. You're part of that team forever that won that Super Bowl. So I think that everybody realizes the importance, the urgency, and it definitely ramps up. You can just feel it, and it's across the board. I mean, from top to bottom. And it's just an exciting and amazing feeling. And if you can reach that pinnacle, then there is no better feeling. I have people all the time tell me, what was the one thing, or have you ever played, have you ever won in a Super Bowl? And I always tell people that, and that is the one thing that I missed. It didn't matter to me, Pro Bowl, how many Pro Bowls, how many, whatever. It's getting to and winning that Super Bowl. And if you can do that, that is the ultimate in that league. That's the ultimate thing to strive for.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I mean, everyone wants it. Everyone that's in our profession wants to earn one of those rings. I think the difference between a regular season game and a playoff game, or at least the first one, is heightened. The next one, even more so. You get the championship game, which we got to one time. You can't even hear yourself think in those stadiums. I mean, it's the fans are in, so it's just like going up the staircase of intensity. The other thing I noticed, and the Rams were complaining last week that Green Bay was holding and doing all that stuff. The refs don't make a lot of calls when you go to the playoffs. They let you play, and they let the game go. And it has to be really a drastic penalty. So, I mean, it's a little bit more of a free-for-all. It's a little bit more stuff. There's a little bit more grabbing, a little bit more checking, all these different things that go on. And I know the refs probably don't intentionally do that, but I'm just saying maybe that's part of their hype. They want to actually see something before they're going to throw the flag. And so little stuff gets away with. And when one guy gets away with it, another guy gets away with it, it gets a little chippy out there.
Now, and you both mentioned Super Bowl. Anybody that played at you guys' level, of any sport, but we'll use the NFL, obviously the championship is your main goal. So I think it would be a little bit foolish of me to ask each of you if you had any specific regrets. I would instead like to start, if it's okay, I'd like to start with you, Jim. Is there a moment or a game or a specific memory that really sticks with you in a good way, as far as, wow, I still look back on that, and every time I think about it, I got a grin on my face?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's a couple of them. I mean, there's more than a couple of them, but I remember when I was with the Rams in '89, and we beat the Giants in overtime, and Flipper ran through the tunnel. I mean, I'll never forget that. It was just, good play call. Bill Belichick was running their defense on that side. We knew they were blitzing. We called the play up, and Flipper, got it, and the rest was history. But I'll never forget also being playing with the Rams and being an opponent and going down and again, Flipper goes for 3 on what the NFL record for catches down in New Orleans in the Dome. And that's why when I had a chance to go play in the Dome full time for the New Orleans Saints, I'm like, I love this place. It's flat. The surface is good. The people are awesome. This is awesome. And Jim Moore was a good coach, a good player. So there's so many memories out there that I could look at. I just thank God that he gave me the opportunity to play for 12 wonderful years and came out kind of healthy. I got to live my childhood dream. Someone got to pay me money to go play. Would I have loved to have 5 Super Bowl rings, this and that? Yeah, everyone wants to be like that. But I don't look back out now. I was blessed, and I thank God I had the opportunity.
I got to tell you, I couldn't have said it any better. I feel the exact same way. And I'll tell you, playing for the Saints, like Jim said, the fans, that dome, the music, just it made playing in that league fun. And just the guys, I was talking again to Torrance Small, and we were talking about the fact that as a receiving corps, we used to get together and go to dinners, and we would, there'd be a UFC on, and we'd go to somebody's house and watch it, and we made it a point to spend, time together off the field. And I don't know if you remember, Jim, that time it was a Halloween party. And, we went down to the French Quarter, and Jim had on this costume, and he had on braids, and it didn't look like him at all, but people were still like, "Hey, Jim Everett." And
hey, I thought I was undercover too, Quinn.
He was. That was the funny thing. It was like he could have had a burlap sack over his head, and people were still just like, "Yeah, Jim Everett." I mean, it was the funniest thing. But so that wasn't the ultimate experience. I'll tell you, if I had to say one on the football field, I had first signed with the Bills, and it was, I think, my second game, and we were playing against the Patriots, and it was my wife's birthday, and I caught a quick slant, and I went about 70 yards, and it was the game winner. And I had all of my wife's family come into town and surprise her with a birthday party. So it was just a pretty phenomenal weekend. But, I could name 100 of those, and I'll tell you, 9 out of 10 of those memories are with the Saints. And, that's definitely where my heart is, and I love it there. And again, the fans and the family atmosphere, and just an awesome experience, and to be able to play that many years in the league.
Quinn, this is my next question. Now, if you have any pictures of that Halloween party, we need you to put them on that Bayou Blitz Facebook page or on our Twitter.
No, you don't.
I don't know if
I look better in burlap.
I'll tell you what. I don't know if I have to look deep, but I don't know if I have any of Jim. But I think I have. I don't know if I want to post the ones I had what I was wearing that night. But, man,
didn't you go to the Village People or something? Didn't you go to the Village People?
Yeah, I had on I had a hat, I had a big old fat mustache on. It was ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
But man, what a good
hot
time.
wife. You guys were on it.
Jim, Quinn just threw you under the bus, man. It's your turn. You got to do the same to him.
No, I think I recall being an old man or something, and what I did, I was an old man. I may have had a couple of different masks because God, there was one quarterback that used to have like multiple masks. But anyways, I went with this old thing. I had this cane, and I hunched over. I know, and I wore this old man mask, and no one knew who I was because I walked around like 5'5" because I was hunched out. Because I figured if I walked in this party being 6'5", everyone's going to know. Later on the night, I was like, okay, no more hunching. Then they're like, oh, big tall Jim over there. But I think I should change mask because the other one I had was so stinky smelling. Anybody ever wear mask all night? You're like, oh man, I hate this thing. So anyway, I want to wish all the viewers happy Halloween and have some safe fun out there, but enjoy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And anybody, please, that's listening, especially if you have little ones and they're dressing up, and I know we're going to do this with our little guy. We want to see your pictures. They don't even have to be Saints related. But Halloween, the holidays themselves are all about the little guys and little gals out there. But definitely it brings out the little kid in all of us too. So by all means, have safe.
We haven't heard from Kyle. What's Kyle going to be? Kyle, what are you going to dress up as?
I'm more interested in finding out what my wife's going to dress up as. So.
Uh-oh, that's a different show.
Kyle's going at his wife. Did I hear that right?
No. You know, I think it was the year before last. I dressed up as Sam L. In Pulp Fiction. This year,
oh, nice! That's a good one. That's
oh
a good
man,
one.
I had that curly wig on. It was crazy.
Oh, perfect.
I don't know. I haven't given this year much of a thought, Jim, but I doubt it's going to be creative around the Mosley household this holiday.
All right. Well, good luck with that. Well, we know Bob's going to go as Pete Rose, so we got that covered. We're going to have to hook up, but enjoy your time down here in New Orleans, Quinn. I know that will be a good time. When my back gets a little bit better, I'm going to be out and roaming around with you for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we'll settle up on this lunch thing after this weekend's game. The Iowa.
I'm choosing where I'm going to eat already.
We'll see.
I look, because I know you're both pretty active on Twitter, especially you, Jim, when it comes to Purdue. So I look forward to the back and forth on Saturday too.
Oh yeah. We'll get it going.
Jim, we got to get you on Facebook. We have all kinds of fun on our Bayou Blitz page and through the Saints discussion groups on there. We definitely got to get you on Facebook. I know you're extremely active on Twitter.
Well, I was on Facebook, and I was one of those guys that jumped ship. So I think I'll stay off the sideline. So I mean, I'm not trying to make any political statements or this or that. I just make a privacy statement that anyways, I have a great time on Twitter. I think the world of social media. I love trying to reach out to different fans or different of the players or different stuff. And it's an open forum. I think it's safe. It's fun. Keep it right on the up and up. I think it's good stuff. So I kind of like that, and I just made that choice. But I totally understand the other stuff.
And you know what, fans, he's absolutely right. I've gotten the pleasure and the privilege of getting to know both Jim and Quinn through social media. And guys, it has been an honor to get to know you guys over the last handful of months. Truly a privilege to have you on the show. Hopefully it won't be the last time. Hopefully Kyle and I are doing all right with our interviews with you. I know we could talk about football and the past and the 80s and 90s and the rivalries for the rest of the night. But I know both of you have to get going back to your families, and we got our friends on the other network under the dome coming back on. Can I get a real quick prediction on the game from either one of you?
All right, Quinn. I'll want you to go first.
All right, hard to say. I think it's gonna go down to the wire. Again, man, two evenly matched teams. I think that the Saints will probably be underdogs, but I'm gonna go with them, and I'm gonna say 28-27. Saints.
Ooh, close.
All right, I think it's gonna be a little bit higher number. I think it'll be 42-42 into the tie, overtime tie. That's what I'm saying.
Wow.
All right.
Why'd I know you were going to go there? I just did. I had a gut feeling.
Hey, Quinn, I have one more question about your proposal. What's the name of that your website again? I forgot that. I want to write that down.
Yeah.
Everyone, write this down.
So it's BryantAkers.com. BRYANT, like Kobe Bryant. Akers, ACRES. BryantAkers.com. And again, order the book. Order a few of them if you can. For family members, it's a great read, and the proceeds are going to Alzheimer's research. So get on there and get the book. It would really be much appreciated. And we'll see everybody out in New Orleans this weekend.
Awesome.
Have fun, Q. Bob, Kyle, thanks for having us on, and it'll be a great game to watch.
All right, thanks, guys.
Jim.
Jim, we'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks, Quinn.
All right, brother.
Thanks, Jim.
Take care. Bye.
Y'all take care. All right, Bob.
My head's spinning. I mean, we've had both guys on in the past. You and I have gotten to know both guys individually a little bit, actually quite a bit over the last few months. As great of players as each were, they're even greater people, and I truly mean that. I'm proud to call them a friend. I call them each a friend. They are, everything that they said about the New Orleans Saints organization and fans. folks, they mean that with the bottom of their hearts. I mean, they love that team. They love that city. They love that fan base. Jim's heart is split in two. I mean, he is truly an LA guy too. But I mean, when he says he's rooting for a 42-42 tie, he means it. And he wants both quarterbacks to throw 6 touchdowns and no interceptions. And he means that too. But I mean, just a wow interview. I hope we brought our fans of the show. I hope we brought you an outstanding early Halloween present. Because neither man, not that I expected them to, but neither man failed to disappoint. I mean, great stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Good stuff. Good having them on, and I really do appreciate what Quinn is doing out there fighting against Alzheimer's. And so, guys, if you can be able to help him out and participate in the walk or get the book, do so. It's going for a good cause.
Yeah, it really is. If you're in the New Orleans area and can come out and see Quinn and Torrance Small and our friend Tyrone Hughes, please do so. They're all outstanding people. If you can't, or even if you can, still, like Kyle said, go to that website and order the book. It's at a great price. I'm looking forward to reading it myself if I ever have time. I need more than 24 hours in a day. But the proceeds do benefit Alzheimer's research. Quinn is working really hard. That's a disease that hits a lot of us close to home, but him more so than anybody else.
Well, it hit me as well. Remember, Bob, my mom had Alzheimer's as well. So I understand where Quinn's coming from. But guys, please support the cause.
Yeah, no doubt. And listen, I know our friends over at the Under the Dome Network are preparing to come onto the air as we speak. So I do hate to cut the show short. But
hey, before that, man, look, those guys are gonna go on with the show. Let's just say, your quick thoughts, Bob. What do you think is going to happen with the Saints and the Rams?
I think it's going to be. There's no reason to believe that it's not going to be the game of the year. Both teams are too good for the other to blow them out. So I would be absolutely shocked if that happened. I think a lot of people are expecting a higher scoring game because of outstanding offenses on both sides. But don't underestimate these defenses either. I know, the Rams defense, has struggled against running backs coming out of the backfield. So they'll be tested to the limits with Kamara. And Michael Thomas, I expect to have a big game too. Drew is Drew, but New Orleans has to establish a running game. Then on the other side of the ball, I really love the way Eli Apple played last week, and that defense, themselves is playing with a lot more confidence. But they're facing arguably the most balanced offense in the league. While I wouldn't be surprised to see a high-scoring game, I expect the defense just to step up a little bit. I do expect a close game. I can see it being somewhere in the range of a 31-28, maybe a 30-27, somewhere in there. But I do see the Saints coming out on top. I see them edging out the Rams in this one. Yeah. How about yourself?
Look, I got to be honest. I do think the Saints are going to play well with our home crowd in play, back in the Saints, and I think that's going to be the extra ingredient. That's going to be the filet in the gumbo for us right there. The thing that really concerns me, and I read a few analysts' thoughts about the Saints' defensive backfield. I just think these guys need to play with a little bit more confidence and a little bit more swagger. Eli Apple had 9 tackles, but they really were keying in on him, P.J. Williams has got to play better. I'm sorry, man. He's just got to play better. I know Deuce Wyndham say he didn't play that bad, but I don't know. I don't know if he didn't play that bad. He gave up some key situations there. all I would like to see is them playing with some swag, because I don't see that in Lattimore. Their eyes is what concerned me, and Apple's eyes concerned me at the beginning of the game. He got a little bit more confidence throughout as the game progressed, but they've got to do a little bit better, and just they got to be physical with those smaller wide receivers. That's the key right there. Brandon Cooks, we know he does not like physical contact. He doesn't like a physical approach to the game. He always gets disturbed and perturbed when defensive backs do this. Culp, just coming back off for injury. You got to be physical with him. He's a smaller wide receiver. Woods is not, he's an average wide receiver, but none of those guys are just huge targets. They're fast, but the only way you can be able to slow down and neutralize the quickness that they have is that you've got to impede their progress and put them in more difficult situations of least probability of catching the ball, and use the sidelines as your extra defender. And I think allowing these guys to just go inside and getting slants and catching the ball at will, it's got to stop. This has got to be the game where it has to stop. And the defense, you can't say enough with Davenport, Rankins, and Jordan, what they're doing on that defensive line. And look, man, Stallworth, he's really proven his worth coming back from injury, how he's helping to stop the run, he and Davison. I really believe right now it's going to be how well we execute on offense, how well we're able to really be more physical. I was surprised by Chris Sims, and I posted this video out there on our Facebook page on Saints News. Chris Sims said the Saints, this is last week, are becoming the bullies of the NFL. And if you look at what we did against the Ravens, what we did against the Falcons earlier this year, what we've done against a lot of fast and more powerful wide receiving cores, and especially what we did against the Vikings, even though we gave up 100 and 100 to Thielen and whatever. But when it came down to not bending, we bended but not broke, I think that's going to still have to be the key in how we play this game coming up.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And both Jim and Quinn pointed out very accurately that the Rams work hard and scheme successfully to get Woods and Kupp and Cooks in space and running a lot of different formations, bubble screens, things like that. But the Saints play well against that kind of scheme. It's over the top that they struggle against. And they seem to do well. The more physical they are, the better they play on the edges. And I see them having an advantage defensively against the Rams offense. I do see them having an advantage up front. With all the factors that you just named, Jordan, Rankins, and Davenport are playing outstanding football. And Stallworth and Davison are only a notch below that. And Demario Davis and A.J. Klein, they are going to be tested against Todd Gurley, not only in the running game, but Gurley's an outstanding receiver coming out of the backfield too. So that might be their stiffest test, but they played extremely well. And again, they're not going to keep the Rams offense off of the scoreboard. They're just not. LA is too good. But I would be surprised if Los Angeles ran wild against them, especially if the Saints were to have some early defensive success and set the tone physically like they were able to do, especially against Baltimore. But that physicality also took hold against Minnesota. And I don't know if you felt the same way that I did in that Viking game. I know the Saints won by 10 points, but coming down the stretch, it felt like a lot more. It just felt like the Saints dominated that game in the second half.
Dominated the game. The game changer was that turnover when the Thielen fumble, of course, but you've got to get more turnovers. We've got to be in the positive again against the Rams. We've got to put them in some difficult situations. And look, you've got to ramp up the amount of plays that Marcus Davenport is going to have as well. I know he's been sharing time with Okafor. It's been great, but he's at the place where I thought he would be at this point of the season. You've seen the slowly integrated him, slowly progressed him, but we need that physicality. We need that athleticism on the field. And you may see a little bit more of a guy like Robertson as well, because if speed is going to be an issue, we need to have some faster linebacking core in there as well. You saw they made that change after the first series or two. They took Klein out and put Anzalone in and Teo, so that's going to have to be noted as well, because, they have some speed out there. Of course, Gurley, gosh, I don't know if you can say we're going to stop Gurley or just try to limit him from a big play. That's the best thing we can do with Gurley, right? And also on the opposite side, they got some pretty good linebackers too, some fast linebackers. So those matchups against their linebacking core against Kamara is going to be really interesting how that plays out. But, hey, man, this is one of those games where, how do I say it, Bob? I think the Saints have to do that kind of a similar game plan they had with the Ravens. It's got to be physical. It's got to be, let's control the clock. Let's be methodical. Let's limit them to have as many touches as possible. And we've got to be aggressive. We've got to be aggressive.
Well, and the Rams have scored under 30 points, or have been held to under 30 points only twice this year. But it's been 2 of the last 3 games, against Green Bay last week and against Denver a few weeks before that. Denver, as much as you want to put down the Denver Broncos offensively, they still have a very good defense, a very fast and physical defense. Green Bay last week, they got very physical with the Rams, especially the Rams receivers. Gurley broke loose a couple of times, and the Rams got a couple big plays in the second half. But Green Bay, I thought, dominated that game, especially for most of the first half. That has to be the same kind of approach that New Orleans has against this LA offense, like you pointed out. And like Jim told us, don't expect the Saints to come out on the first drive or two and just drop back, because Drew might get killed. As good as the Saints' offensive line is, the Rams' defensive line is equally as good up front. So that's going to be a push. That's going to be a battle to watch all day long. That's probably going to be the key tell in how successful the Saints offense is how well they're able to contain. They're not going to dominate, but how well they're able to contain Aaron Donald and the Ndamukong Suh.
You beat up a bully by hit him in the face.
Yeah.
You don't run away from a bully. You know you're going to get hit back. You know you're going to probably get your teeth knocked out, but you got to be willing to fight him as hard as possible and knock his teeth out and show them that I'm not afraid. And that's what they got to do with those first-round draft choices with Flowers and Sue and Donald up there, man. You've got to be able to say, look, okay, y'all okay, but, we got – this is our home. And that's how they've got to play it, man.
Yeah, it's going to be one of the games of the year, I think, for sure. And you could it's a coin flip in my view. I'm going to, I think, ultimately pick the Saints. When I predict the game towards the end of the week. But right now, that's a tough call. All the way down the board, up front, quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, defensive, all the skill positions. Each roster is among the most talented in the NFL. And that's why the Saints are 6-1, and that's why the Rams are 8-0. They have played up to their capabilities, and we wouldn't expect anything different on Sunday.
Yeah. Rams are lucky they got out there with the win. If it were not for those 2 points given up on the safety, if it were not for just some little mental errors here and there with Ty Montgomery as well, we could have been saying a different story. This could be one of those games where the Saints and the Rams are vying for who's going to be top spot of the NFC. Still could be, right? Saints come up on top. But this also could be one of those critical games where the Saints need to win in order to not just keep pace, but to also have that head-to-head tiebreaker. And if we're able to get that tiebreaker, Bob, I think we'll be in good shape. And also, if we beat those guys, that's going to really put the rest of the NFL really on notice that the New Orleans Saints are for real.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's exactly why we highlighted the Vikings matchup last week is so important. It had nothing to do with revenge in that locker room. Not at the top of their priority list anyway. It was more about beating a conference foe at the top of the standings that you're probably going to be competing with for seeding come playoff time. And it's going to be the same thing with this Rams team. If New Orleans loses, with either team that loses, it's not going to be the end of the world. But it could determine on who needs to play where come playoff time. Right. And remember, too, the Carolina Panthers are only one game behind New Orleans in the standings. Philadelphia made a move today to trade for Golden Tate, and they seem to be playing with a little bit of momentum. The NFC is starting to shape up exactly like we thought it would at the beginning of the year.
Yeah. Carolina against the Buccaneers, Fitz magic. I think that's what the Bucs are hoping is going to take over instead of having Mr. Turnover himself, Jameis Winston, up there. Look, Bob, this is never going to be easy in the National Football Conference. The NFC is the better conference. We have more talented teams. We have more physical teams these days. It used to be the AFC 10 years ago. But right now, I really believe that if the Saints can keep this game close, especially going into the fourth quarter, if they're not running away with it, right? They got to keep this game really, really close. And if they're going to trade shot for shot, I think I like my chances with the New Orleans Saints in the fourth quarter to pull out the win.
Yeah, so do I. And while you and I and Quinn and Jim both, we've all predicted and expect to see close games, there's something else to consider, and that is the special teams. Right. The Rams have had some problems with their kicking game. Meanwhile, New Orleans, it's as solid as they come. Morstead is one of the best punters in the league. Will Lutz is one of the best clutch kickers in the league. So I will give that would be one of the few areas that I would give either team a distinct advantage. And in the return game, New Orleans is covering kicks and punts pretty well. And the Rams' top kick returner, and he gave the Saints fits last year, Pharaoh Cooper, is out. He's out with an injury. And although JoJo Natson has done a nice job replacing him, he's not what I would consider a top-end returner. Taysom Hill has returned kicks pretty well. I almost expect him to break one any week now. That's about the only thing he hasn't done.
Yeah.
Alvin Kamara is explosive as a punt returner. This game might come down to a key special teams play in the fourth quarter, too. I would not be at all surprised.
Yeah. I look forward to Mark Ingram having one of those vicious games on coming Sunday. I really believe Kamara as well as Ingram are the best 1-2 punch in the National Football League. Mark has been getting acclimated back to the system, but I think this is one of those games where we really are going to need and see him really pound the rock really hard. Look, man, we shouldn't have never given that ball back to the Vikings, in my opinion. I think the Saints could have pounded a little bit harder and smarter. And I think that's one of the Achilles heel has always been to the team, especially in some of the games where if you're in the fourth quarter, you don't give up the football. You find a way to shove it down the throats of your opponents. This has to be one of those games as well. We can't give them any more possessions other than the ones they're going to account for, and we got to take a few of those possessions away.
Yeah, and especially playing at home. It's the first time New Orleans has been at home since early October in that matchup against Washington. So, the fans, the home fans are really going to be into it. I expect the Saints to come out of the locker room with a lot of momentum. Not that the Rams are an extremely confident bunch. But if the Saints win that first quarter, they're going to have loads of confidence, throughout the rest of the game. And I'm with you. I've been waiting for Ingram to get on track. We saw a little bit, we saw some flashes of that towards the end of the Baltimore and then again last week's game. Jim said that if he were game planning against the Rams, he would run right at Aaron Donald. And he told us why. That is tailor-made for the way the Saints like to run the ball, especially with Ingram. They like to go over top of Pete and Larry Warford, their guards. So if those guys can at least push Donald off to the side, you're not going to flatten him, and you're certainly not going to pancake Sue. But if you can get him a little bit, Ingram has great into the second level of that defense. And it might be a lot of 10, 12, 15 play drives, but that's exactly what you just said that the Saints needed to do to keep the Rams offense on the sideline. And, when they do get on the field, make them play with that little bit of forced sense of urgency. And that's another key to the game.
Yeah. The Rams are like Floyd Mayweather or Muhammad Ali. The Rams they got to be lathered up in order to really be effective, and you don't want those guys to be lathered up. You want them to be cold. You want them to like, okay, we just got to get ourselves off and running, because Goff missed some plays. I watched that game against the Packers. That first half, he was missing throws. He didn't like the pressure coming up front. I think that's going to be another key, man, how well Rankins is able to put some pressure up front on those guys as well. If we can get Davenport to make him feel some, and Cam Jordan make some pressure from the sides, how those guys are going to run some games or stunts is going to be the key as well, how effective they're going to play. And the same for the Saints, how that line is going to defend Drew is going to be really critical, man. Drew gets the ball off. I think he's second in the league getting the ball off faster than anyone else. So we've got to really look at everything, look at the probability of the Saints really being unsaintly in this game and be the bullies that Chris Sims say we can be.
Yeah, and I do think it's going to take a lot more than 120 passing yards from Drew to win this game. But I don't, and I agree with everything that you're saying. I don't think it's going to necessarily take a 300-yard passing day. I think if Drew can throw the ball somewhere between 25 and 30 times, maintain at least a 70% completion percentage, that means that New Orleans is controlling the game through the air and having success on the ground. If Breeze has to throw the ball about 40 times, the Saints might be in trouble against the way this Rams defense is set up.
Yeah, look, man, if we go anywhere over 33, I would say over 32 to 33 passes and above, that means we're playing from behind, in my opinion. Now, or it could mean that it's just a tight game and we've been going back and forth. Either way, it's not really going to bode well, and that means our defense didn't do their job, and we really need to see those guys doing their job. Brandon Cooks is going to be one of those guys, and I know he's played against these defensive backs before, and he's going to really be amped up because, look, y'all got rid of me. I'm going to show y'all shouldn't have done what you did. I know we limited him when he was with the Patriots that time, but I think he's going to really be amped up for this particular game. Let me ask you a question, Bob, and and this is kind of going off the beaten path here. Do you believe the Saints, because I haven't seen enough of Traquan Smith going down the field. Washington game, that was a broken, busted coverage. left him open for that historic pass from Drew Brees. But are we still missing that downfield threat?
Physically, I don't think that we are, no. Because, we did see Smith make some plays down the field during the preseason. So we know he's capable. We know he has the athletic ability. He seems to have the ball awareness because he's making plays in the middle of the field and on those intermediate routes. So that tells me that he can locate the ball in the air pretty well, which is also very important in getting down the field. It's more than just raw speed, as you know. I just think that the defenses that they have played, especially in recent weeks, Washington, Baltimore, Minnesota, they're all very physical and they all have good defensive backfields. In fact, each defensive backfield of the three teams that I mentioned was progressively better than the previous. So I think that has a lot to do with it too. New Orleans seems to be going into these games. They want to get the ball out of Drew's hands quickly. We know that Brees is like a computer back there. He can process. I don't think he doesn't have the deep arm that he once did, but he still has the arm to get the ball out there on most occasions, as long as as long as he's able to set his feet to do so. Is Traquan Smith any kind of, the kind of deep threat that Ted Ginn Jr. is? No, he's not, but I do think he's good enough to make the plays down the field. I just think it's more a question of the game plan that Sean Payton and Pete Carmichael and Drew Brees are going into these games with. It wouldn't surprise me to see him take a couple of deep shots against this Rams secondary, just to loosen up the coverage. Because what we've also seen in recent weeks, teams are starting to cheat up, especially against Michael Thomas. And while we're still seeing Brees complete 75, 77% of his throws are even shorter. And are more contingent on the Saints receivers trying to break tackles because all those lanes are crowded. So I kind of do expect, I know what Jim said as far as, we shouldn't expect the Saints to come out and drop back. I do expect a deep shot on the first drive, though. We saw it against Minnesota, but we didn't see it from Brees throwing it. We saw it from Taysom Hill. I kind of expect Brees to take a play-action shot on first or second down right out of the gates. Hopefully they make a play or at least come close enough to loosen up that Rams coverage. Are they as explosive with Ted Ginn Jr. sidelined? No, not quite, but I do think Smith is good enough to make plays down the field.
Right. Look, man, and I'm just putting this out there. I don't know if Dez has that top-end speed that can help the Saints, but I was kind of shocked that nobody in the National Football League with a guy that was still productive at Dallas made a play for a free agent, Dez Bryant. I'm still kind of like, wow. They're signing these other guys and giving fourth and third round picks like for Tate and those guys. I'm just thinking, what is up with Dez Bryant other than people believe he could be a cancer or in the locker room or whatever? But if you have a strong locker room, a strong presence, man, why wouldn't you give this guy an opportunity? And there's some wide receiving needs that are out there with some of these teams that are still vying for playoffs.
There are, but I do think that Brian's attitude I've got to believe anyway, that Dez Bryant's attitude and locker room presence, or locker room disruptive presence, outweighs what his physical abilities are now on the field. At the prime of his career, Dez was as talented as any receiver in the National Football League. But personality-wise, and we've talked about, this young man, he's closer to our age, but, Terrell Owens, we've talked about him on the show, and did his personality present more of a problem than what his physical abilities presented as an asset on the football field. And I think that maybe Bryant's negative presence has now outweighed or surpassed his ability to produce on the football field. So, yeah, I mean, you bring up a great point. When you have a strong locker room presence, like the Saints seem to, why wouldn't you take that chance? I don't know if I'm, Sean Payton or Mickey Loomis. I don't know if I pull that trigger quite yet, because it's still a roll of the dice no matter how you look at it. And the New Orleans offense is still producing at one of the top clips in the league, second in the league in points, I think sixth in the league in overall yardage, including fifth or sixth in passing.
Right.
So at least they're producing at this point, and we're still talking about midseason.
Yeah.
So if they do feel the need to pull the trigger at some point, you still have a few weeks window to get that done, and for your receiver to get acclimated before a playoff push.
Yeah. Look, Terrell Pryor even got another job. Terrell Pryor.
Yeah.
Why not Dez Bryant? Yeah. I'm sorry. Look, I thought, and I know I'll keep on going diverging, guys, but I thought Terrell Pryor could have been a decent tight end option for the Saints, man. So, I mean, look at this last game. I mean, not one tight end was even targeted for the Saints. So, but anyway, that's just some of my crazy thoughts. And I know we got to get off the air, but Bob's been a good show. Don't forget, you guys can follow Bob how?
You can follow me on Facebook. I am Bob Rose. And, of course, I am on Twitter as well. My personal Twitter is @BobbyR2613. As most know, my articles are through the Canal Street Chronicles. Canal Street Chronicles on Facebook under that same name, and Twitter @Saint CST. And you can see everything that we do through our Bayou Blitz Facebook page, which is nearing 1,200 members now, including Mr. QuinnEarly and a couple of other former Saint players. And former NFL players, not just Saints. We're really excited to see the direction of that Facebook group. You and I have even done a couple of live things on there. Very interactive members. Not only fans, but other analysts. Mr. Barry Hurst has posted his articles on there, as well as a couple other people from Canal Street Chronicles. John Hendricks comes to mind in his outstanding pieces, as well as Mr. Deuce Wyndham. So, yeah, I mean, if you don't give me personally a follow, and I hope that you do, I think that I'm a fairly nice guy, then at least follow our Bayou Blitz Facebook page or follow Mr. Kyle Mosley as well, and he'll guide you through all of our Facebook and Twitter activities also.
Yeah. You can always follow us at Saints News on Twitter, Instagram, as well as on Facebook at Saints News, and go to www.saintsnews.net for all your Saints News 24/7. And you can also check us out at www.saintsnewsnetwork.com with Barry Hurst and his featured articles. All right, Mr. Rose. And one last thing. We got to say congratulations to our friend Nola Chick. She and the Chicks in the Huddle. Nola Chick is a producer at NFL Network. She is straight from New Orleans and a huge Saints fan, and she is expecting her third child. So we are saying congratulations to her and little baby Henderson. So Nola Chick, congratulations to you and your hubby. Also, man, Bob would like to say congratulations to John Hendricks. He and Mr. Duncan from the Times-Picayune co-wrote a book. Was it like Tales from the Saints Sidelines? A little piece that they put together, and John contributed to. So I'm interested to read that. So congratulations, John, on that piece. And one more thing, Mr. Barry Hurst, my man from Harahan, he had a birthday. So happy belated birthday, my man, this week. And congratulations to you on celebrating another God's gift of a year under your belt. All right.
Not only that, but I believe Barry's birthday was on Saturday, the day before my oldest daughter Miss Brianna Rose turned the
right.
big 2-0.
Ooh, wow, congratulations.
Happy birthday to my beautiful daughter and one of my three beautiful and extremely intelligent children. They must have got their brains and their looks from their moms because they didn't get it from their dad. But I am blessed to have such terrific children in my life. Brianna, I love you and happy birthday. Love you too, little Isabella, who's not so little. She, of course, is 13, and Mr. William, as most of Facebook Nation knows, he might be the most active 1-year-old Facebook baby in the entire world. But
that's my man.
But
my man Will.
He's a little Dome Patrol member in waiting. But yeah, I mean, we got a lot of great things happening throughout New Orleans Saints universe. We'd certainly like to thank our friends, Jim Everett and QuinnEarly, for being on tonight, giving us a big Halloween treat. And folks, please, if you haven't already done it, go to that Brian Akers website, order Quinn's book. If you're in the area on Saturday, stop by and meet Quinn. I promise you, he is at least as impressive a person as he was a football player.
Yes.
As is Mr. Jim Everett. So we'd like to thank our friends for joining us tonight.
Yeah, definitely. And don't forget, switch over to the Dome, Under the Dome podcast with those guys, Sean and Alan, and just listen to what they are talking about and previewing the Saints and Rams matchup. This is Kyle T. Mosley with Mr. Bob Rose of the Bayou Blitz. Bob, my friend, have a good time, and you guys be safe on Halloween, my friend, okay?
You too. Happy Halloween to everybody out there.
Who dat, baby? Take care. Bye.